Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Art of Being a Woman. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we are discussing the art of thriving while single. I am so excited to discuss this topic because it's something that I struggled with for quite some time, and it took a lot of lived experience to really get the hang of being single, and not just being single, loving it and cherishing it, truly. I didn't even think that was possible. I really saw being single as a waiting period until my next serious relationship, but something about that didn't feel right. I've been single before in my life. I was never really someone that went from one relationship to the next, not necessarily because I had great self-control, but because life just didn't unfold that way for me. I always had a nice break between my long-term relationships, and it always gave me an opportunity to really self-reflect on the choices that I've made, the things I did in those relationships, and what I wanted to do differently going forward. But in the past, when I was single, one thing that I never really learned how to do was really enjoy it and really love being single as much as I loved being in a relationship. And honestly, I didn't care to even like it. I didn't think that it mattered. So I never really cared to love being single that much. It wasn't until this current single phase that I'm in where my perspective really changed. I'll be honest, it is quite a longer single season for me. I've been single for a few years, and the beginning was a little rough because I would grow restless and just ready for the next experience in love. But when it wasn't happening and I was forced to really sit with myself longer than I expected to, I started to really question my impatience and question my restlessness. And by doing that, I really began this whole journey of falling in love with being single. That doesn't mean that I no longer want to be in a relationship. Of course I do, but I'm not desperate for it. And desperate is not even the right word, because sometimes we can be single and crave a relationship and it's not desperation. It's just something that we know we want in life, and that's fair. We should want things and strive for more than what we have. But I would say it was more of this yearning and this deep desire, but it was coming from a place of lack and a place of insecurity where I didn't feel like my life was enough the way it was. I know I'm not the only woman that experiences this when they're single, and honestly, this extends beyond just women. Men go through this too, whether they admit it or not. Not every single person is going in and out of relationships back to back. There's many people in this world that go through long periods of solitude that they don't really talk about so openly, because honestly, solitude is a private period in our life, and it's really intimate and personal. We really meet a side of ourselves that even we don't really get to see unless we're really making the time to do so. I really hope that by the end of this episode, you start to look at being single in a new light. Not only do you accept it, but you make the most out of it to the point where you're patient with the next phase in your life. You don't feel the need to anticipate your next relationship. Obviously, this episode is not for every single listener. It's for those that are single. So if you're not, my apologies. This week, this topic is not necessarily for you, but who knows? Sometimes these feelings apply when we go through a phase where we don't really have friends. Perhaps we were a part of a friend group and then we did get into a relationship and we did settle down, and we have to start putting ourselves out there and start from scratch. That can also be another way that we experience feeling single in life. So perhaps you relate to this topic, perhaps you don't. Either way, I hope you enjoy. And as always, we're going to get into 4 steps that I covered on my Instagram account and my Threads account at She Is Artfully Woman. If you are not following me there yet, I would love if you can join me. I post on Instagram once a week and I post on Threads every single day, and I do respond to every single comment on both Instagram and Threads. So I look forward to seeing you there. Now, the 4 steps are as follows. Step 1, understand what this season is really for. Step 2, get to know yourself again. Step 3, deepen your passion for life. And step 4, practice the standards you want to receive. Let's begin with step 1. Understand what this season is really for. When we find ourselves in a single season in our life, regardless of the cause, it's really important to remember that there's a purpose to it, because there's a purpose to everything that we experience in life, whether we fully understand it or not. And that's something that we discuss here a lot on this podcast in many different episodes. So it doesn't change when we talk about relationships and the circumstances we find ourselves in when it comes to our love life. This doesn't necessarily make it easier to enjoy being single, but it's very important that we understand and accept that there is a purpose to us going through a single season, because the sooner that we figure out the intention behind it and we utilize this time with ourselves to our benefit, the quicker we can get out of it, honestly. But even more so, the more we gain out of this phase in our life. Because if we were to really spend our whole single phase in our life just focusing on the future and when things are going to be different, we're honestly losing the plot when it comes to our own life, because we are the main characters of our own life. And I know that sounds cheesy and it gets said a lot, but it's true. Each and every one of us are living in a movie about our own life. And not only are we the main characters, we're the directors and we are the producers, pretty much, because we decide if this is going to be a funny movie, a happy movie, a coming of age movie, fill in the blank. But the only way that we can really become the director and the producer of our own movie is if we do something with what life is giving us. We don't want to wait for circumstances to change for us to live an exciting life, live a life full of love, and feel amazing in our own skin. Because then ultimately, that means that we're allowing seasons in our life to not make us happy when it could make us happy. And I get that it's very hard to really see the fun and the beauty and the love in being single, because part of life is connection. We're not meant to be alone forever. But without realizing it, our mind can start to play tricks on us when we're single and make us focus on all the things that we don't have currently, and make us feel like we're lacking and we're getting older, and just instilling so much doubt and fear and anxiety in our mind that we forget to focus on all the good that there is to discover and explore in this phase of our life. That's why I really created this post, because once you start to shift your mindset and you realize that being single is actually the best thing for you right now, and you understand that you have the option to make the most out of this season in your life, you'll never really look at being single in such a negative way ever again. And negative might not be the right word, but you'll never view it as something that is working against you, so to speak. Now, obviously, each and every one of us has specific, unique reasons for why we are experiencing a single phase in our life, but ultimately, it's an opportunity for us to reconnect with ourselves and to really love our life while we are on our own, so that when someone else enters the picture, they're not our source of happiness. They are not our source of love. They are not our source of fulfillment. Because when we do that and we put all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak, we risk staying in relationships with people out of fear of being alone and being single. And we should never feel that way. Being single should be exciting and something that we look forward to, because we love ourselves, and spending time with ourselves and being with ourselves is fun. And not only that, if we want other people to really enjoy being in our company, we have to enjoy being in our own company as well. It's rare that we don't love our life, someone comes into our life and they love being a part of our life with us, because no relationship can really change the tone of your life for you. Only you can do that, because we're all living our own movie. So if your movie is more melancholy and you're focused mainly on things that aren't going your way and things that are out of your control, when someone comes into your life, it's just going to add on to that energy because like attracts like. We can only really attract people that match the level that we are on, which brings up another great point. If we want to attract the genuine love, deep love, unconditional love from another person, we have to start creating that within ourselves first so that we attract it effortlessly. But if we're going to go about things backwards and seek it in other people, this unconditional deep love that we have not yet learned to cultivate within, we are going to attract people just like us that are seeking the same thing. They're seeking love and fulfillment from other people without wanting to do the inner work. And that is what leads to those toxic relationships, unfortunately, and just relationships that lose their spark very quickly. So these are all things to really think about and consider in your single season, regardless if you just became single or you've been single for years now. What do you really think the purpose of being single is for you personally? Ask yourself, why is this in my movie? Many times when you ask yourself these questions, an answer starts to surface in your mind. It's like our soul has been waiting for us to connect with it and engage with it. So take advantage of that, especially now that you have more quality time with yourself, and you'll be surprised and impressed with what you find out and what you learn about yourself. Step 2, get to know yourself again. Sometimes we think we do know ourselves very well, because why wouldn't we know ourselves? We've been with ourselves since the day we were born. But as we get older and more people come into our lives, friends, our family extends, we're in and out of relationships, our energy and our focus becomes more fragmented. It gets divided up between all these people that we interact with. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's neutral. It's part of life. But what happens when we do that is we get less and less of our own energy to ourselves. And I truly believe that one of the main points of life is that we should always be making sure that we know ourselves on a very deep level. We should always be keeping that relationship with ourselves alive and well, just as much as any relationship that we value in our lives, because it's the longest relationship we'll ever have. When we are single, we start getting energy back that we originally gave out for long periods of time. And that can feel a bit uncomfortable in the beginning because we don't know what to do with ourselves. We get bored, but we can use that energy and really make a point of reconnecting with ourselves. I like to do this by asking myself some really deep personal questions. And honestly, I make sure that the questions make me uncomfortable, because that's how I know that I'm growing. When something is easy for us to do and something is easy for us to say, that means it's repetitive. It's something that we've done before. But when we hit a brick wall with ourselves and we start asking questions that we don't really know the answer to, that's when we really begin to connect with ourselves deeper than we ever have before. And the beautiful thing about connecting to yourself deeper than you ever have before is that the love that you will attract from another person will be just as deep, because we can only attract the amount of love that we have been able to give to ourselves. That's why sometimes people attract narcissists, because they don't love themselves on a deep level. That doesn't mean that everything is their fault, but it just puts into perspective how serious our relationship with ourselves truly is. It sets the tone for all our relationships to come. So if we allow ourselves to sit with the discomfort of asking ourselves hard questions, we will find a new, deeper appreciation and love for ourselves that we've never experienced before. And we will enjoy that connection that we have with ourselves so deeply that we're not really seeking it outside of ourselves as much anymore, because we feel understood, we feel loved, we feel accepted by ourselves, and we feel that way not just about the parts of ourselves that we present to the world. No, we feel that way about even the things we keep hidden from the world, which I would assume is ultimately what many of us are looking for in love. We want to be deeply accepted, loved, appreciated by another person. It all starts with us, which honestly just reminds us of our power. We have so much power over our lives, and we don't always exercise it. So allow this period in your life to be the time where you use all the power you have and really expand your capacity to feel love for yourself so that it starts entering your life quicker. Before we move on to step 3, I want to just list a few questions that I think are great for the step. If the questions that I'm asking are very easy for you to answer, I would suggest researching deeper shadow questions until you find ones that make you uncomfortable. Find the questions that make you stuck. That's how you know that you're getting to know yourself more than you ever have before. Ask yourself, what am I trying to escape by rushing this phase of being single? What do I believe will finally feel different once I'm no longer single? Who am I afraid of being if I stay single longer than I planned? What story do I tell myself about people who are still single? And lastly, what do I think will finally start once I'm no longer single? Take the time, whether it's now or later in the day, to write down these questions and answer them, or answer them out loud. Pause this podcast and really give a clear answer to yourself out loud because you are listening, and see if any of those questions trigger any discomfort for you so you could start getting to know yourself on a deeper level. Step 3, deepen your passion for life. This is my favorite step because I believe I'm a very passionate person. I feel things very intensely, even when something is not that serious, but I love to. I feel like that's what makes life worth living. It makes life very exciting, and I like when life is exciting. I don't like when things don't faze me all the time, and I don't like being super nonchalant. I like being chalant. I like caring a lot about things that set my heart on fire, so to speak. I'm not much of a chakra person. I've heard of chakras. I know that they're like a straight line going through the body, and there's the heart chakra, there's the throat chakra, there's the third eye. I know some things about it. What I will say, based on what I know of the chakras, is that love is obviously going to be experienced through the heart chakra, but so does passion. Because if something is setting your heart on fire, it's your heart chakra. So if we want to expand our heart chakra, so to speak, if we want to become more of a magnet for love in our life, we need to radiate love. We need to radiate this passion, this excitement in our heart so that we can attract it. And how do we do that? Through pursuing things that we're passionate about, things that awaken that desire within us to be excited for life. This is not always so easy to figure out. I remember before I started writing and I started this podcast, I didn't really know what I was passionate about. I was just getting into Pilates, so that I was very passionate about, and honestly, I would never shut up about it. It was pretty annoying, I'm sure, but I was a bit stuck. I didn't really have hobbies. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what would excite me. It wasn't until I started asking myself if I could do anything with my free time, if I didn't have to work for the rest of my life, what would I want to do with my time? That's when ideas started to come to mind. Podcasting definitely would come to mind quite a few times, but I always shut it down without second thought because I was just never someone that really liked to be on social media like that. But that thought kept coming to mind, and I did have a lot of energy at my disposal because I was single, and I just decided to go for it. What do I have to lose? I have all this free time, might as well pour it into something that scares me but excites me at the same time and see where it goes. Eventually, I'll meet someone, but I don't have to wait for them to arrive for me to be excited about my own life. I can make my life as exciting as possible, so much that I completely forget that I wanted something that I don't have yet. So I really recommend to every single woman out there, really find something that sets your heart on fire. Find something that you're excited and a little bit scared to do, and go after it. Put your energy into it. Take all the energy that you put into scrolling on social media, watching shows, watching movies, whatever random things you do to pass time. Take all of that energy, pour it into something that you're passionate about. Make sure it challenges you on a certain level, and watch how passionate of a person you become and how much passion you start to attract in your life. And in my opinion, that feels so much better than waiting for someone to really spark that passion for life within you. Because think about it, when we get into relationships and we start getting really giddy and excited for life, it's not because the other person is giddy and excited for life. No, it's because they're lighting our spark, so to speak. They're just lighting the match, and we're the ones that keep the fire burning alive. So when we're single, we just have to learn how to light that spark for ourselves so that we're always feeling that passion and that love and excitement for life, regardless of who's in our life and who's not. Step 4, practice the standards you want to receive. This step is more practical, and I love practicality. I really do. I think it's easier sometimes than going deep within and reflecting and changing how you think about life. Basically everything that I talk about on this podcast. But when we're single, this is when we really have to go back to the drawing board. We need to really think about the relationships that we were in, what worked, what didn't work, what we appreciated, what we didn't appreciate. And we also have to get really clear on what it is we are looking for. We need to know this so that we say yes to the right people that we're dating and no to the ones that we don't want to engage with. But at the same time, we have to be really clear on what it is that we're looking for, because we need to start practicing it in our day-to-day life so that we attract it. I remember in my last relationship, I had standards. I knew what it is that I wanted. I wanted depth. That was very important to me. And there were other things as well. There were a lot of things that I did appreciate from my first relationship, and I wanted that carried into the second one. But what happened was I didn't uphold the standards that my first boyfriend upheld for me. He was a very generous person with me, and he would always make sure my needs were met and that I was always happy on a sensory level. But I never really did that for myself when I was single. So when I got into my second relationship, that whole sensory experience of being wined and dined and gifted, that really wasn't a part of the picture. That was not something that I experienced with the depth. And it was a big shock to me because in my head, I had all these standards and I thought it was almost obvious that it was a requirement to be in a relationship with me. But clearly it wasn't, because I was dating someone that did not meet those standards. And I settled because all I thought I wanted was depth. I have had to work on meeting myself with depth all the time because that's what I love to do, and I love to receive that from other people. And I am also giving myself a great sensory experience of this world. I buy myself gifts. I wine and dine myself as I please. Obviously, there's balance. I'm not saying to max out your card and just start splurging because you want to manifest a man that does the same for you. No, that wouldn't even be healthy from a partner. You wouldn't want someone to be reckless with their spending to prove that they love you. So don't even go down that road. You really want to start practicing whatever standards you know are non-negotiable for you so that it will be very easy for you to know when you are meeting someone that is worth your time and your energy. So if you are someone that in your last relationship, you realized they never spent quality time with you, or it was just hard to get their time and attention, you need to make sure that you schedule solo dates with yourself. And it could mean going out, but it could also mean watching a movie with yourself and putting your phone on Do Not Disturb. Don't invite anyone. Don't make it a chore. Really give yourself the experience that you want to continue having in the future. Before I wrap up this episode, I just want to say that being single is the best opportunity to be self-focused, self-centered almost, and self-absorbed. Really, take the time to make everything about you and bettering you. Because as we know, once we start getting into relationships and we start families, if we haven't already, life no longer is only about us. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being single. Life is truly all about you right now. So embrace it, enjoy it, love it. Do things that you might not be able to do in the future. Because I promise you, there are so many people that are settled down, have families, and they always reflect and say, oh, I wish I did this when I was single. I wish I did that when I was single. So, you know what? Let's make sure that when we do settle down, we don't have any regrets because we really went after everything and lived life to the fullest. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this week's episode. It means so much to me. If you enjoyed this topic, please rate this podcast and share it with a friend, a family member, or anyone that you think might benefit from this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts and topic ideas for any future podcast episodes. So feel free to leave a comment on this episode or feel free to message me on Threads or Instagram at She Is Artfully Woman. I love you all. I hope you have an amazing week. Until next episode, bye for now.